Vinay, the profitability word reminds me that one of your largest investors, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, who has a 40% stake in Akasa, each time we interact with him, he says, I have an NDA, I'm not going to speak on Akasa. But I'm very curious to know, how often does he chat with you guys? Because, he monitors everything on a macro and micro level going on with the world economy like a hawk, right? So I'm sure he's also going back to the drawing board and figuring out how profitable would his proposition of Akasa turn out to be, given what's happening with crude and everything else.
So first I'll say we're extremely fortunate to have Mr. Jhunjhunwala be investor in Akasa. We wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here sitting talking to you if that were not the case. And he is a sort of legendary investor. He is a talisman, and so we hope that we will have some of that rub off in Akasa. In terms of how often he talks to us, it's really sort of as often as he thinks is warranted. For us, we are open to having meetings and discussions with all our investors. But I will say, as has been the case with Mr. Jhunjhunwala, he's invested in a number of companies, and not one, two, but 40, 50 companies across his career. And I think he is the perfect investor, but also letting management teams do what management teams have been trained to do. So I couldn't be happier with what we have today.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I asked because, the other companies that you talked about and the ones he's invested in, he sometimes grills them on conference calls. So I'm just curious to know, when was the last time he spoke with you?
Yeah, it's I'll tell you that we absolutely appreciate that. I've always felt that if you're surrounding yourselves with very smart people, you got to be open to the questions that they ask, and you can't be defensive about it. So we've had, and we continue to have, very, very, interesting discussions, and I really appreciate his perspective. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn from, for all of us from his perspective.